Hi, and welcome to another episode of Career Reshaped. I'm Pauline.
I'm Natasha, and on today's episode, we have Ellie, who is an engineer with many years of consulting experience, leading projects and teams. She is a certified organizational and executive coach. She was part of the Victorian Skills Authority Industry Advisory Group for the Digital Skills and Jobs program. At Blackmail, she advises executives and technology leaders on effective engineering practices that scale. Ellie is also the Director of Engineering at Orderly Meds. Hey, it's Natasha.
And I'm Pauline.
We're so pumped to bring you even bigger and better stuff this season 2 of Career Reshape.
We've got new guests, free masterclasses, and all the good vibes you'll only find here.
So don't forget to hit subscribe, follow us on Spotify at Career Reshaped,
and check us out on Instagram at my.career.angels.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, Ellie. I was really happy to have you here today with us.
Thank you for having me.
So we've just introduced you, and it's a very exciting introduction that you have there, but I guess everybody wants to know is how did you get to where you are today?
Cool. So I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. So I guess where did you start with it? When you went to school?
Yep.
What did you think you were going to do with your life?
I had a 10-year plan and I wanted to be an architect.
Oh, that's great. That's really solid.
Yeah. So why not architect? What happened?
I didn't have grades good enough to be an architect. And I ended up being a mechanical artist in advertising studios for a while.
Yeah. So I love that. So you didn't have the grades. In that moment, though, when you knew that wasn't going to be a path that you were taking, what was going through your head? Like, what were you feeling and what support did you have around you to make different choices?
I think I still wanted to do something that was a bit creative, and ended up still doing something that is around design, but not exactly what I wanted. And I really enjoyed being a mechanical artist because you get into a flow of getting things done, which is, I think, a nice state to be. But I've only done that for about 10 years. You asked me before how I got to where I am. So I really have had like 4 different careers in my life, and this is my 4th one. And it's probably not going to be my last because I still have things that I want to learn.
Amazing.
Yeah. After working for advertising studios, I've actually met my ex-husband and changed to working in scuba diving. So I did that for about a decade. And as part
Oh, that's so cool.
And as part of that, we moved to a couple different countries. So I worked in various countries and I managed a couple of dive operations. But then I had friends that were doing web development and that was of interest. So I taught myself how to code. And I was one of the first one in the period when people didn't have code academies. So you had to do it at home by yourself from books and people that you've met in the community. And I taught myself how to code, and I've been doing this for the last 20 years.
I mean, that takes a lot of discipline to teach yourself how to code. It's like teaching yourself a whole language.
Yes.
That's not easy.
No, I think different people do need some structure, which is why going to school is useful for some. But the nice thing about the web development that there are so many different resources online that are free at the moment that if this is what you want to do, this is something that you can do. You just need to be motivated and regular. And it's one step in the right direction, but it's not enough because I think at some point you also need to work with other people and learn from other people as well.
So how would you suggest others to get to that point? So if they can't go to uni, if they can't go to school and they have to teach themselves and they're using these free resources, how would they go about getting those mentors to learn from other people?
I would join a community of people, of like-minded people and just try to learn from them, maybe try to find a mentor, somebody that can help you along the way. I would look at internship programs where you can go into a company and learn on the job. There's a lot of companies nowadays, especially with women in technology, that they do various programs to try and make the team more diverse and work with women to get them upskilled. I've done a couple of those programs myself for two employers, two companies.
And so with the internship, I think a lot of people feel that an internship is only designed for kids fresh out of school, but anyone at any age you can intern. Is that correct?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've done, I think that you've mentioned about me, is I was part of a panel for the Victorian government for the new digital jobs program. And that was all about 6 months of 3 months of training and 3 months of internship for anybody at any age to be able to get into technology. And they had 10 different streams that you could have chosen, which one was the best fit for you.
Now, I know some avenues in how to find mentors and networks. I know, for example, there's an app called Meetup. What other avenues? Where else can people find these mentors? Because some people might be like, I don't even know where to start to look for a person to help me.
So I am part of the Ruby community in Australia, and they still do them actually. In the early age, they do again, they still do them. They do monthly meetups in the big cities. So if you go to the meetup for that community, you get to meet people and interact with them and socialize with them and network with them and create friendships, and they can help you maybe find jobs. There are also Slack communities online. So one of the ones that I'm a co-organizer for is called Tech Leading Ladies, and they support women in tech. So you have a lot of support there. One of the programs that they run is used Mentor Loop as a tool to mentor women in the community. Meetups, Slack communities, trying to find jobs as a junior or an intern or an apprentice would be a good place to find other people that can help you as well.
That was great advice, but I want to jump back a little bit.
Yes.
Back in time. And you mentioned, the scuba diving I think is amazing, and not for me, but good for you. I'd be terrified. But you mentioned traveling and going overseas to do that as well. So there are a lot of people that are interested in that, maybe not the scuba diving side, but moving overseas or interstate for work. And you've done that. So what were the challenges that you were met with, and what advice would you give others on how to set themselves up properly to do that move?
So 10 years ago, I was working in Sydney, and I was working in the Ruby community for a long time, and I felt a bit stale, and I felt like I wanted a new adventure. So I applied for a company in the US, and ended up traveling there for the interviews, and then got an offer and moved to New York for 2 years.
I'm so excited.
Pauline wishes that was her life.
I went to Hong Kong. I feel like Hong Kong is just as busy and alive as New York. So my version, yeah.
I think Hong Kong is wonderful. So my suggestion, apply for various jobs. I think especially in the US with the O3 visa, it's a lot easier for Australians to actually start working for companies in the US, for example. It means moving away from family and friends, and that depends on how comfortable you are with that, because that can be a big shock to the system. My suggestions for that is lean in on people that you work with to create friendships at work, and then look at other avenues around you to create a community of friends and support in the local areas where you are.
That's right. There's always like expat communities, and I found in Hong Kong, I found people actually made friends by joining clubs, like sports clubs, like a soccer or whatnot, and that's where they found others who they already had a foundation, because they found something in common, an interest, which was that activity. And from there, it moved on. I know with me, I struggled in the beginning to make friends. I actually turned out that my neighbor introduced me to some people that told me about a job. And it was through that job did I then make friends. But it took, like, a couple of people to get me there. But again, that's networking. It's talking to a neighbor, being invited out for dinner, meeting other people, telling them, I'm looking for work, I'm looking to start something. There's something that I know of an opportunity. They're hiring now. That's how it happened for me. So through a social event.
Yeah, I think a lot of the job that I ended up getting is through people that I know because it depends on the market. Currently, for example, it is an employer's market because there's a lot of people looking more than you have jobs. And actually having a connection with the people that are advertising helps. It helps put you, make you differentiate you from the rest of the people that are applying. And look, I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I applied for a job at Sydney University, and I didn't get the first job, which I'm actually pretty happy that I didn't get it because it was for a web designer, and I don't think I'm a good enough designer to do a good enough, a solid enough job there. But I made a good enough impression in my interviews that when I finished the interviews around, they asked, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to work as a Rails developer. And a person there remembered me. So next time when I had jobs come up, he approached me and he said, hey, I know you wanted this job. We are advertising for this job. You should apply. And I said, cool, I should apply. And then I applied, but I made it a point to I was traveling overseas and I was traveling through Sydney. So I made a point of stopping in Sydney and coming into the office and introducing myself to put a face to the name so people can meet me in person. And then I did the set of interviews online because I wasn't in the country at the time, but I ended up getting the job. So I think making it personal helps.
Yeah, that is definitely a point of difference. That's very clever to do that. And you're 100% right when you're saying it's an employer's market because there are just so many people right now looking for work. It's flooded. And on the radio, you hear that, oh, it's getting better, but it's not. It's just getting harder and harder for people to find work, especially with the ghost jobs that are out there. Or so often you find that they already know who they're hiring. They're hiring internally, but they still legally have to advertise, and that makes it harder. So that extra effort that you did by making sure you stopped in Sydney, putting a face to the name, it's almost where we're at now, where people need to do that extra step to really make them be seen by the hiring managers and stand out. You need to have that uniqueness to you.
Also, like we were talking about traveling and moving for work, but I think nowadays with being able to work remotely from home, it's like you don't have to travel to the US to work for a US company. I'm currently working with a US company and I'm working from Australia. So it's not impossible, but it depends what you want, I guess.
That's absolutely correct. So yeah, you can. The world is now a lot more open because of COVID. I think that's the only good thing that's come of COVID was that we were able to see that we don't really need to leave our houses to get things done. But yeah, you're right. So it does come down to the individual. Do you want the adventure outside of the house or do you want it inside of the house? And there's opportunities now to do all of that.
I think in the current market, a lot of companies are trying to get people back into the office, which I think it's a missed opportunity because that flexibility means that you can hire a much more diverse team of people that are more talented versus being restricted to people in that area that you have. Also, people will take a pay cut or will take different opportunities for ones that gives them the flexibility to work from home.
I know plenty of people that actually think that way. If this employer would let me work from home or even 3 days a week from home, I'm happy to take a pay cut. But just some companies are still quite stubborn in that aspect. And I understand that They believe they need, bums in seats, that they need to see the people working. They need to measure everything that way. But Pauline's right. Since COVID, there's been a huge shift, and there are so many ways to measure your employees' work from home. Yeah, okay, you can't know exactly when they've logged in unless they send you an email saying, hey, I've logged in. But then they could just walk away and go do the washing. But it's the quality that gets put out there. Are they getting their job done? Are they doing it on time? Are they getting better results? And most likely they would be getting better results because they're more well rested. They didn't have to drive half an hour to the office, or they didn't have to listen to office politics or get bullied by someone. It is definitely something that employers should continue allowing or offering as an option to those who want it.
I think there's benefits to both home and office. At home, you can collaborate. Sorry, in the office, you can collaborate a lot easier. You're right there next to the person. The energies, you can, share ideas a lot faster. And some people actually are more productive in the office because there's less distractions. But then others might find that there's more distractions in the office. There's more breaks. There's that person from accounts yip yapping all the time. Like it really depends on the individual and how the individual works best. I know, for example, me, a hybrid role would be the best because I need that downtime at home in peace, but that social aspect also energizes me. And being able to connect with people and share ideas is also something that I need to get out of the house. So having options and flexibilities, but I also think it does come down to the position. Sometimes a position is really very team based and you need to be together. You need to have these meetings and ideas, and otherwise you're just constantly on Zoom, constantly messaging each other. Sometimes it's better to be in an environment where you are next to that person.
I think you don't get serendipitous meetings with people if you're not in the office. I get that. And you get like the social interactions for free. But in the end of the day, who pays the price for that? And the people that have to commute every day between 30 minutes to an hour each way are the people that are paying the price. And I get it that it's less, prevalent at home or in a remote environment, but it's not, you just need to be a bit more conscious in making that happen.
This is true. I know. I remember even in my dream job, I had the best HR job. And this is well before COVID, and I even saw that a lot of the work I'm doing, I can definitely do from home. I needed to be in the office at times. I needed to talk to accounts. I needed to, move around and talk to people. It's HR after all. You need to be present and there. But the administrative side of things, I didn't need to sit there in that office to do that. I could have done it at home. And in that moment, I had no distractions at home. So I was actually a lot more productive. And when I did do anything from home, I actually got a full day's worth of work done in half a day. And I was like, wow. I was shocked because I wasn't distracted all the time by my coworkers. So I did see value in it. So when I did approach my manager, she said, absolutely no way. No, you're not working from home.
Did she tell you?
So
Did she tell you?
Dependent on the. Oh, yeah.
She didn't tell me
Did
why.
she tell you
No.
why?
She says, absolutely no way. It's not an option.
I agree with Tash about having bums in seats and expecting that if you're in the office you're working doesn't mean if you're working. You can very much be in the office and not do any work. And the only way to actually measure that is by setting objectives and outcomes and letting people go and achieve them. And for that, you don't have to be in the office to make that happen.
That's right. There needs to be trust. And I know that's not necessarily the easiest thing, but you got to earn that trust. You earn that trust by doing the job. If you're not doing the job, then you shouldn't be there. That employment should not be yours anyway. I know someone that they, under no circumstances is there a work from home option. And I'd asked, and basically it comes down to trust, because they've had employees that work from home, didn't perform, and now they want to be watching them doing the job. And that's a real shame because clearly they were the wrong employees. They shouldn't have been there. They were let go, but it's muddied the waters for anyone else coming in because now this manager will not accept any flexibility. And it's a shame because I do know that they've lost a few candidates because of that. Because that was the condition of the employee. Like, well, can I have hybrid? Can I work from home? No. Like, I'm sorry, I had to turn this opportunity down. And I was like, you need to be flexible. Cannot be flexible. Purely because there were some employees that didn't fulfill their responsibilities while working from home.
I mean, on a personal level, I know that I would be better in an office environment. Everybody's different. Pauline, you were mentioning about the distractions. I get distracted at home. I see the washing needs to be done, or this happens, or that happens. So I have to actually motivate myself more working from home and getting things done and sitting and because of my ability to easily get distracted. I specifically have 2 screens as well. So I have more tabs open. So I'm like, no, I've got to look at that work tab and that work tab. So it keeps me here focused more than going and doing something else. But that's knowing who you are, knowing what is better suited for you. It doesn't mean that employers should all think that, oh, well, there's too many distractions at home. I completely agree. There's too many distractions in the office too. And the amount of times that I had someone come to me just to have a chat at my desk in an office environment, I'm like, I'm really busy right now. You can't just say, get lost.
Talking about what you value is, I think, very important. Knowing yourself, so knowing what you value is very important. So usually when I have conversations with friends or with people about how to find work that will match, what you want and what you need, I ask them to start defining their values. What is the most important for them? So, for example, one of the most important for me is working with people that I can be friends with. One, I want to continue growing in my work and my abilities and skills. So I want one that gives me opportunities to keep growing and learning. And another thing that's important for me is to be able to do good quality code. So in coding and programming, for me, that's being able to write clean, maintainable, sustainable code that is backed up by tests. And if I don't get that in a workplace, then there will be too many conflicts and I will not enjoy the work. But so one, I think you want to know what's important for you and what are your values. But the second thing, it's useful to also have the company define what the values are and see if you match.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that because when we deal with our long-term career coaching clients and the career change clients, the first 2 questions we ask them on the form and in person when we talk is, what are your goals and what do you value most? Those are the first 2 questions, just to make sure that they're clear, that they know what it is, because it makes them think. You don't often know.
Yeah, because some people, they value a purpose. I want a purpose-led company. I want to make a difference in the world. Some people want money because they want more money because this is what they currently need in their life. And being very super clear about what you want and what you need is very useful when you're looking for work.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of this topic,
we just wanted to check in and say that if you believe that you need some assistance and that we could help you, reach out to us today, check out our website, join our newsletter. We'd love to be in touch.
We wanted to quickly mention that subscribing to the podcast is the best way to support the show and ensure you never miss an episode. It's super easy. Just click the subscribe button whenever you're listening. Thanks for tuning in. I think, though, a lot of people, they know what they want. They may even realize that the company doesn't share the same values, but they feel that they still need to accept the opportunity because it's been presented to them. And there's a fear that maybe there's nothing else or won't get another opportunity. And that's where the issues start to arise, because that's when there's a downhill spiral going, because then they get lost a little bit with that sort of push between values, and it becomes harder.
So I'm not a financial advisor. Disclaimer, but make that clear. But one of the things that I would like to advise people is when they work to build up their rainy day vault or FFU, saver, that if something happens and it doesn't work for them with a current employer and they're in a state when for their mental health they need to leave, they have enough money in the bank to be able to do that and not feel like, oh my God, I need to find my next job immediately. Just to give them a bit of buffer to find the right employer.
I love that. There's so many times we speak to people and clients like looking at career change, or they're looking for a new job. So they want, the resume and all of that done. And they're just so desperate to leave, but they say, I can't because I need the income. And there's only a few clients that we have that say to us, it's fine, I'm going to leave now because I have money saved up. I have a few months worth backed up, because they do exactly that. They have that, if you a rainy day fund where they can say, you know what, I don't need this toxic environment anymore, I'm leaving. And I think that is fantastic advice. Not everyone can save a lot, but if you just do a little bit each time. I mean, I think there's a few different apps where, I think, Pauline, you even used it once, where you pay through this she's like, you tell me. I'm really sure you told me about it, but I could be wrong. You pay through this app, and every time you purchase something, it takes $1 and puts it into a separate account.
It rounds up.
You
Wow,
use this.
I'd be so rich. I'd be so. I'd have. That app sounds great. I'm going to find it, because I do a lot of purchases. No, anything to do with finances. I no. I'm the worst with finances. So
yeah,
there was a period.
No matter what you purchase.
Well, there was a period where I was unemployed, and I actually did have savings. I had savings purely because I was living at home with my mum and dad. I was in my early 20s, and mid-20s actually. So I didn't have to pay for anything. My parents were great. They didn't charge me rent or anything like that.
Can I have your parents?
They were really good. Actually, they were very supportive. My dad actually was amazing. When I was our dad. Sorry, our dad was amazing when I was so I was made redundant twice in my career, and one time was during the global financial crisis, and that's where I had some savings, but I was still I was devastated. I felt like I did something wrong, even though it had nothing to do with me. They were firing everyone in the company, and I did go to Centrelink, and they didn't give me money. They said I had to wait 3 months because I had too much savings, and I was very upset. I said to her, I feel like I'm being punished for saving money. Like, so you want me now to go through everything I've saved for my future? It's not really fair. You're here to support me while I'm unemployed, and you're not doing that. But in any case, I did get another job, and I had gone through my savings living with my parents. Why? I don't know. But yes, I still had the savings.
She likes to shop.
But I was able to save a lot more quickly after that again, and then I eventually moved out. And then when I was made redundant the second time, I'd now already been living on my own. I've been doing my masters in the evening, and I was made redundant, and I was very upset. And then our dad said that he will support me for 1 year so I can complete my master's degree, get all that sorted, and then I can go back into the wild and no more financial support, which was really nice of him to help me on that. And I know not many people get that, so I'm not saying talk to daddy, that was very lucky for me. But then, yes, that's when I moved overseas, and I got my job, But if I didn't have that support, it definitely would have been a lot harder because I had no savings, none. I've never been good at it.
Yeah, I think being in Australia is very, it's really good with having help with HECS and student loans that are very low interest, and you only start paying when you have a job above a specific rate. So that can be useful for people. We were talking before, how can you get started at the beginning in web development? I think one of the things that you can do, and one of the things that I've done, is sometimes it's very hard to get your first job. But nothing is stopping you from creating your own sole trader, and then actually do web development for family and friends at a very low cost, to be able to practice what you do, to be able to have a portfolio and show examples for future employers as well, if you can't find your first job, for example.
That's a really good idea. You could definitely do that. I mean, and even then you can go on Fiverr, Upwork, all of that, and start offering services, especially you'll have a portfolio to show for what you've done for family and friends. They don't need to know it's family and friends. I think that's really good advice to give. And I mean, even, when Pauline and I first started, we asked, not family, but friends, we're happy to help, give us a review, because you need to start somewhere. And I'm happy to be honest about that. The first few clients we had were people we knew, and your friends are usually happy to support you. First few, not all.
Look, I mean, we've had a few clients that were referred by friends, and we did it for free. They were almost like our guinea pigs in a way. Like, we'll do your resume for free in exchange. Well, nothing's free, so in exchange for a review, we can get the momentum going. But it gave us also the opportunity to test the waters, see what works, what doesn't work.
Do people need it? Stuff like
build
that.
our build our skills. Yeah, just talk to people to understand what they need. So when we did come to putting out our services, we knew what people wanted and were looking for, so we're able to tailor our services better. And of course, it kept evolving. It's still evolving as we go. But yeah, in the beginning, we just wanted to get our name out there. So we still did our very best work. We didn't just half it, but
No, they all got jobs. We did well.
Yeah, yeah. But yes, we were just trying to put ourselves out there as best as we could.
Most definitely.
In the beginning.
Lean on your family and friends and the network that you have to get started. I think it's a great advice.
You mentioned closer to the beginning, you said you've had 4 different careers. This is your 4th one, but you also said it won't be your last. So I find that very interesting. So can we go into that a little bit? Because most people are afraid of change after change, and they're like, I just need to know what I'm doing for the rest of my life. But this is a different thought process. So I'm intrigued. I want to know more.
Well, I think definitely in any job that you do, you have some transferable skills. I think good communication skill, good written skills, being able to give people feedback, being able to project manage things well, is things that you can take from one job to another and still, have a successful job. But for me, I think one of the things that I've done recently, we've done organizational coaching certification. And I would like to take that a bit more forward and continue with my coaching journey. And also I want to go and do my master's, but I think I'm going to do my master's in organizational psychology. So I've done some studies about this already. I want to take what I've done and take one step forward and learn a bit more, because there's so much you can learn. There's the things that you can learn will never stop. It's whether you're interested in, all the things around you is the difference.
It's also different, from mechanical art to scuba diving, which I love that, to, coding to coaching. They're not linked to one another. Some changes makes, like, some people might change from, I'm going to go from being a teacher to a trainer. You can see the connection there. These are very separate, very different, unique.
She was coaching people when she was scuba diver instructing.
Well, no, but actually, I don't know where you were instructing. You said you went on some missions. What were those scuba diving missions? I'm really wondering what were you
Uh,
looking for?
I think there's some similar themes in everything. So even working in um, digital print, I was teaching people how to use the software and the tools. And then I went to scuba diving and I was teaching people how to dive underwater. And now in coding and programming, I've run various workshops to teach women how to code, and I've run a couple of code academies, and I like mentoring juniors. So there's always the theme of teaching and helping others. And I also think I've managed a couple of dive operations, and now I've managed my own company. And my current role as well is being director of engineering. So I'm managing people and managing teams. So there's a few themes there that repeat in all the things that I do. And obviously it's not the same industry, but you can reapply skills that you have from one industry to another.
So true. This is a lot of people don't realize that, or they know, they just don't know what skills they have that are transferable. And a lot of people focus on hard skills only, which are the technical skills that you need to do the job, like understanding code. But the soft skills are actually very important. I think people don't realize that. I don't think it's important. They don't even necessarily put it into a resume because they want to focus on those hard skills. But even when you look at a job ad, every single job ad talks on those soft skills. We need you to have attention to detail, interpersonal relationship skills, communication. We need you to be flexible or work well under pressure. These are the soft skills that you can take with you anywhere, in any scenario. It doesn't even have to be employment. It can be outside of work. And that's when we work with our clients, we're like, let's think about everything that you're doing, because perhaps in your work, you're not managing something. But outside of work, maybe you are the one organizing all the social activities. You're managing the whole group. You're on WhatsApp and you're managing everything. It's a skill. No, you're not going to put that as a job in your resume, but you can take that skill and put that skill on your resume. So I think that's something that people might need help, though, to identify those patterns and those skills that they have. So, you're obviously very self-aware and you can see one
Where
from
you can go
another,
to next. Yeah.
but a lot of
Yeah.
people can't, and that's okay. It's not an easy thing to do. So,
And I think that's why people get stuck and they're like, okay, I finally found what I'm good at. I'm going to stick to this for the rest of my career. But
Which is
it's knowing.
Yeah, which,
Yes.
which I think it is fair, and there's nothing wrong in knowing what you're good at and doing that for you. But I think for me, I just try to, I enjoy learning. I enjoy learning new skills. I find that if I do the same thing again and again and again, I get bored. So I want something of interest. Um, we were talking before about remote work versus working in the office, and the problem with remote work is that people don't see you actually doing the work or seeing the extra stuff. So you do have to proactively communicate about what you've done and what you've achieved. Because what you can see by research is people that work from home get promoted less than people that work in the office. And if you do have some people that are always in the office and some people that are always at home, the people at home will usually suffer in that regard. So they need to be conscious of that and work on communicating their value for the rest of the company and being conscious of creating connections with other people at work.
this is a really hard thing for a lot of people to do. Twofold. One is a lot of people aren't very good at communicating. They will put it on their resume, strong communicator, but a lot of people are not. That's what I've come across. They're not very good at articulating what it is that they have done or can do. And when we sit with a client, it's asking and peppering a lot of questions to get to the answer of what it is that they've achieved. But then the second part to this is a lot of people don't, it's almost like imposter syndrome. They don't see the value in what they've done. Like, oh, but that was nothing to talk about, you know, or they think that yeah, they don't brag. I call this humble bragging, but they don't see that that was something to discuss, or they don't want to come across as look at me, look what I've done, and make too much noise either. That I think are the biggest obstacles that people are facing to go out there. And I think the other side of it, some people don't even realize that they need to do that. They do almost work for itself.
I have three things to say. Let's see if I remember them. One, I think talking about yourself is very confronting to a lot of people. It's even confronting to me. So a lot of the time when I write my CV, I ask my partner to write it for me, which I think maybe it's useful if you write it for people because, they don't feel comfortable saying that to themselves. The second thing is you don't have to brag. You just have to tell people what you've done. And we usually teach people also about personal branding. We teach managers about how to give feedback to people. And we say, if you don't have a culture of feedback, start by giving a lot of reinforcing feedback. And all you have to do is don't have to praise people. You just need to describe what they have done in a bit more detail so people feel seen. And the third thing that I wanted to say is I've heard somebody say recently, they were actually an HR professional that said, nobody's losing weight because of your career. Your manager doesn't lose sleep over your career goals, which means that unless you bring it up with them, unless you work towards that, nobody else will work towards that for you.
There are some leaders out there that do know your goals and do try to keep it in mind. They're rare, but they're the really supportive, really good leaders that actually help you get promoted. But in general, you're right. They're not going to lose any sleep over where you want to be, what you want to do. All they care about is that you're doing what they need you to do for them and that you're doing it well. That's it.
We advocate to doing one-on-ones with your manager, or for managers to do one-on-ones with their report. And some people don't think or don't consider one-on-ones with a manager as a useful use of their time. Like, I need to do work, like I've got too much stuff to do. But in the end of the day, the one-on-ones is your time with your manager to work on your career development or your professional development, on what you need for work, on getting context, on getting feedback to improve how you work. So owning that relationship with your manager and building that relationship is super useful. But not only that, we advocate to do one-on-ones with other key stakeholders in the business, just to make the relationship personal, so people know you, so people know what you want, so people can sponsor you when they know, oh, I have this project coming up. I know that Tash was interested in learning that technology, or I know that Tash is really good at that. Maybe when this happens, we should put Tash on that project. And that only happens when you make that personal connections with other people as well.
I love that. It must also make for a much more enjoyable working environment. It's important. That's also there's a whole lot that's important. It's the projects you do and the career progression you get, but it's also where you do it and with whom you're doing it with is just as important. Because is it the wrong environment, the wrong people, doesn't matter how hard or how great these projects are, it's going to pull you down. And it's going to make you feel that maybe you're in the wrong industry or in doing the wrong things, where it's not that, it's just the environment that's wrong. So that's the hard part, because I think what you're doing is not common. It should be a lot more common. What you're doing is wonderful. I wish more companies adopted that kind of culture.
The thing about culture is that it's there, whether you do something about it or not. But if you want to have a healthy culture and you need to be, again, proactive and conscious about, what you want to see.
Yeah, you need to ensure that everyone's understanding the concept, understanding what you want as a culture, and that people are working together to develop that. Especially, I've seen businesses where they've decided to change. So they've gone through a bit of a change. They wanted to reshape what they're doing, change the culture within the environment, and meaning new values, new mission, all of that. And that's hard work. That's really hard work to then get people, especially employees that have been there for a long time, to get them to all adapt to this new way. So if it's a good shift, it's much more easily adaptable. But if you've been in a negative environment for a while and people are used to that, it's hard to become positive. And it's strange, but there's been studies on this. It's so much easier to have a negative mindset than it is to have a positive mindset. So doing those things and being the standout, like you were saying, Ellie, of you focus on your own self, you go and talk to the stakeholders and have those one-on-ones. It doesn't really matter what's happening around you, because like you said, culture is going to happen whether you work on it or not. So creating your own culture in your little bubble and just being who you want to be and how you want to be, and not, which is hard, but not allowing the rest to affect you, is really a skill to develop for everyone.
I've worked in a company where the culture was not the best, and it wasn't the worst I've worked in, but it was not the best. And I could tell that a lot of people were not happy, and I think they wanted a change. And so I'm an HR generalist. I'm not a people and culture. That's not something that is my strongest skill, I'll be honest with you. But I did go in and come up with a plan and changing the culture. And I thought, and maybe it's naive, I don't know, but I thought, let's get more involved as a company with charity events, and then let's do bonding activities and things like, just it's pancake day. So we'll celebrate, let's make pancakes. And people were there for the food. They loved the food. But then they're also like, what's the point of this? Why do we have to do this? Like, you don't have to, but let's get together and let's tell jokes and have some pancakes and then go back to work. And doesn't it break up the day? Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice that we're all together, departments getting to know each other? Because the departments are very separate and no one really spoke. There was a huge divide between the departments. And, I did try to make an effort, but I could tell that there was still a lot of resistance. And in the end, I had to take a whole department, which was the people in the warehouse, like the floor, and tell them that it was not okay to take a nap in the middle of the day, and that we could see them behind those planks of wood lying there, that it was not okay, and that we can see them in the car snoozing. And they're like looking at me like grown men. I didn't think that was ever a speech I had to deliver to grown men, but yeah, apparently, yeah.
That will not work in some Mediterranean countries when they have an afternoon siesta.
The siesta. Yeah, we're in Australia, people.
Yes.
Look, I'm all for I love a good afternoon nap. I think there is studies shown that having a 20-minute nap, and don't quote me in any of this, it is fact. This is a fact.
You can put a comment. Google it and put a comment in.
I don't know the exact facts of numbers, but it does show, I think it's 20 minutes increases the productivity dramatically. I'm not going to say the percentage because I don't know the numbers, but it does increase. For me, I know that sometimes a nap helps me to reset everything.
Talking about connections between people, every time we've done an offsite in a company that I've worked with, the amount of chit chat in Slack afterwards just went through the roof, because people can relate to other people, or people, when other people give feedback at work, do not take that as as something that you're trying to hurt me, as a too negative. So I think meeting people in person is useful. One of the things that I liked in a previous work is we were working in an office, and every day at 3 p.m. we would go for a cookie walk. And a cookie walk was, we just went as a group and we stretched our legs and we did a walk around, like a block around the office, and we'll stop at a coffee shop and they had really good cookies. And, if you wanted to buy coffee, you buy tea, or we'll buy a cookie, and then we'll continue on the way back to the office. And that will be 15 minutes of stretching your legs, getting away from the screen and reconnecting with people, asking them about work, learning about their work, helping them solve problems, and making a much better connection. In Sweden, this is called fika. And this is exactly that, like stopping and having a coffee and a pastry and something sweet with friends or colleagues.
I love that. I love
Now I want a
coffee.
cookie.
I love pastries. I love it. I like going for walks too. I mean,
Yeah.
all the things I love, and a nice chat. Sounds great. I can
But
imagine
it builds
feeling
the rapport,
rejuvenated afterwards.
connection. Yeah.
I know, like even yesterday, like I'm the type of person that can get stuck sitting at the desk, really absorbed into the work, and then by the time I finish, my brain is just not there. And so yeah, yesterday I decided, it was about 2:30. Like, no, I'm going for a walk. I'm not going to just sit here all day. And not only did I reach my step count, which is very rare, but I did feel better. I went for a walk. I got some fresh air. It's summer now, well, almost summer. So it it did make a big difference, and I'm healthier for it as well. So there's great value in all of that. But I love it. I want to work for you now.
Well, we are hiring if you want.
I'm just not very good at code. Not good at all.
Yes.
Maybe they're hiring coaches.
Yeah.
Coaches,
No,
I can.
I am hiring developers, but yes.
Developers.
Yeah.
That's good to know for anyone who's looking for a great mentor. I think you're it. So, yeah.
So I guess I would like to ask a final question. Going through your career of so many different things and international and interstate moves and everything, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
I think I can give a couple maybe. And one of them, we were talking about change. I think change is a constant. Change will always happen. Like, I tried to have my 10-year plan and nothing worked. And then I decided that I'm not going to have any plans, and whatever happens, happens. And probably whatever surprise is going to be a better surprise. But I do think you need to have an idea of where you want to go and not be afraid of change. And when you have a big challenge, try and break it down to small steps. And where do I start with my first step? And then take the next step, and then take the next step. And I think my second piece of advice is make a connection with someone, like get to know people, make it valuable and personal. And because those people, in the end of the day, you leave the work, but you can keep the people. They can still be your friends afterwards.